are moderate people that would like to bring to positive change in the Gaza Strip. Because of the sensitivity of the issue, these kinds of things are not publicly published.
You're watching the gist on Strat News Global. I'm Ramananda Sengupta. Today we're going to be discussing the peace accord in Israel. And joining me today, all the way from Israel, is Ms. Nina Slama, guest lecturer, teaching assistant, and project manager at Reichman University, who also specializes in Indian foreign policy. Thank you so much for joining us, Nina. It's a delight to have you with us, as always.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's a true pleasure to be here.
Yes. Let me start by asking you personally, because you have been, since you stay in Israel. Um, what is the general mood like right now in Israel over this peace accord? Do you think people really believe that there's going to be peace now?
So it is early to assess whether the peace will be achieved or not. But for now, all the living hostages were released, and there is a great relief in Israel. But there are still 19 deceased hostages that we are waiting for their release as well. Hamas, terrorist organization, said that they are unreachable and it is very difficult to locate them in Gaza Strip. But we, for now, are not breaking or violating the ceasefire because any violation of the first phase, which is the release of all of hostages, living and deceased, would could bring to the cessation or the promotion of the peace deal and the 20-point peace deal of President Donald Trump. So for now, Israel is waiting to see whether it will be possible to release other deceased hostages. And we are just trying to assess whether Hamas terrorist organization will continue to fulfill the peace deal or not.
But Netanyahu had said that the only way that you're actually going to have a peace is if Hamas is totally taken out of the picture. Do you see that really happening?
So one of the phases of the peace deal is to bring to the total disarmament of Hamas terrorist organization and other factions that are operating in Gaza because they are posing an imminent threat to the Jewish state. And we saw the atrocities that they perpetrated to the Jewish state. So it is, of course, one of the objectives of the Sultan of Iran war that Israel launched against Hamas terrorist organization following the unprovoked terrorist attack of October 7. And for now, we are waiting to see whether Hamas will disarm with the guarantee not only of the US, but also of European countries and prominent and pragmatic Arab and Muslim countries in West Asia that are supporting the peace deal to bring to the cessation of the war and that have a certain leverage on Hamas. And when we are talking about Muslim and Arab countries, we are talking about Egypt, about Turkey, and Qatar that are forming a kind of Sunni nexus in the region that will bring Hamas to cess the hostilities and to disarm. Now, it is quite early to see or to assess whether Hamas terrorist organization will disarm totally, because we're talking about terrorist organization that since 1987 is combating Israel and would like to bring to its total annihilation. It is not a perceived threat, but something that they are declaring time and again throughout their years, and also it is written in their charter. So there is a part of the peace deal is promoting the idea of forming an interim a task force, which is the International Stabilization Force, that it's early to know which country or what kind of people will comprise this International Stabilization Force, the ISF, in Gaza in order to form new security forces that are not related to any terrorist organization in Gaza, whether it is Hamas or the Jihadi Islam Palestinian organization in Gaza, to try and stabilize the situation there. So for now, we are hoping that the first phase of the peace deal will be fulfilled, which is the total release of all the remaining deceased hostages, and then Israel and other partners will be able to move to the next phases, which include the disarmament of Hamas.
When the war really first began after the October 7th incidents, one of the things that was said was that, Prime Minister Netanyahu is using this to sort of stay in power and not have an election because of all the charges that were held against him. Has his sort of, approval rating gone up post this peace treaty? Are people more likely to find him, acceptable now?
So Prime Minister Netanyahu didn't use any kind of security or national security issues to promote its political agendas or to try and just move away from judicial or political issues when it comes to Israel. But we saw that since October 7th, the October 7th attacks was perpetrated, we were not attacked only by Hamas terrorist organization in Gaza. Israel had to fight a multi-front war, naming the front of Lebanon with Hezbollah that attacked Israel with missiles and other projectiles that were just launched from the Lebanese soil to the Israeli soil. Syria, under the government of Assad, Bashar al-Assad, that was toppled, and now there is a new government that is apparently striving to change the reality in the country when it comes to its relations with Israel. And also Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria as well. And of course, the Houthis in Yemen that also launched ballistic missiles and rose towards the Jewish state. And the country that is added what we call the axis of terror is Iran, of course, that also launched ballistic missiles and was about to achieve its nuclear program. So we cannot tell the Prime Minister Netanyahu wanted to promote himself or put aside some judicial and political issues in order to just launch this war. It was an unprovoked war that the Jewish state had to combat in order to restore its national security in all fronts. Now, if the peace deal will be promoted and will be finalized and signed by all sides, we have to be very cautious when it comes to the Shia nexus, which is added by Iran. We are keeping an open eye in Iran's capabilities and its willingness to launch another attack on Israel, which is not a perceived threat, but something that is probably or can happen in the coming months. And of course, the Houthis in Yemen that showed important and significant capabilities that are disturbing very much Israel's national security. So the situation is very fragile and very dynamic as well. And we will have to see how things will evolve.
One of the things that a lot of countries have been asking for is the sort of two nation kind of a system, but which Israel seems to have some kind of a challenge with. Do you see that panning out sometime in the future? Is that part of the possible solution?
So first of all, there should be reforms that should be implemented not only in Hamas terrorist organizations that will be disarmed and the willingness to form a government of civilians from the Gaza Strip or from that will be able to govern Gaza properly and without any aspiration to annihilate the state of Israel. But we have also to remember that there is the Palestinian Authority. And the Palestinian Authority has been characterized by many in the world as a moderate entity. But we have to understand that this entity is also funding and supporting terrorist activities against Israel. So part of the peace deal is calling the Palestinian Authority to go into or to promote reforms as well when it comes to terrorist organizations that are operating from Judea Samaria, which is the West Bank. So for now, Israel cannot accept the establishment of a Palestinian state because it will be regarded as a reward for a horrific terrorist organization that was perpetrated um, against the Jewish state and turned to be the most horrific day of the Jewish state since the Holocaust. So when the reforms will be implemented in the Gaza Strip and in Judea Samaria, which is the West Bank, so we will be able to think about different ways that will not only restore stability, but also bring to peace and prosperity for all.
There are already reports coming in of both sides saying the other side has sort of violated the agreement. So, I mean, do you really see this? I mean, let me put it another way. What are the few options that in your mind? What are the few options that now remain in terms of what? Where do you see this going next?
So for now, as I said earlier, Israel is waiting to see whether Hamas terrorist organization will continue to violate the peace deal or not. But if they will uh, reach a certain red line that Israel is posing, Israel is ready to come back to the combats, to renew the combats in the Gaza Strip, and put more military pressure. We see that this peace deal was possible due to, of course, diplomatic efforts, but most importantly, military pressure and military operations that Israel conducted not only in the Gaza Strip, but also in Lebanon, that weakened very much Hezbollah, and Syria, that because of the weakening of Hezbollah, was able to just topple the Bashar al-Assad regime that was supported very much by Iran, and to weaken very much Iran's capabilities and the Houthis' capabilities as well. So when we are combining military and diplomatic efforts, so we can bring to peace and stability in the region. So for now, Israel is still promoting the diplomatic efforts and the peace deal that was orchestrated by President Donald Trump. But if Hamas terrorist organization will continue to violate the peace deal and pose an imminent threat on Israel national security, Israel will not stop and will or refrain and will come back to the combat and just dismantle in a military way a Hamas terrorist organization and its different infrastructures throughout the Gaza Strip.
You know, long before this, when Donald Trump used to be, I mean, he says he's the person who sort of got all this thing done. US President Donald Trump had once said that he wants to turn the Gaza Strip into a tourist spot. Do you see that happening?
So first of all, it is important to stabilize the situation in the Gaza Strip. There are some points in the peace deal that are talking about the reconstruction and rehabilitation of the Gaza Strip. And this is something that many countries are interested to promote, naming Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey. We know that Qatar is very much involved in these efforts. And I believe that when civilian and security bodies will civilian ones will be built in the Gaza Strip, it will be easier to promote the reconstruction and rehabilitation of the Gaza Strip. I am sure that the United States will be part of it, European countries as well, and other Chromatic and Muslim countries that would like to bring to a better future for the Gaza Strip. And we can also think about India that can be part of the reconstruction efforts in the Gaza Strip, because India from the very beginning of the war was calling for a diplomatic solution to the Israel-Hamas war, And I believe that it will be very much interested to be part of these efforts.
But in your mind, do you really think that the Hamas is a sort of a you know dead in the water in that sense, given that it has so much of support from Iran and a few other countries in the neighborhood? I mean, do you really think the Hamas can be just wished away like this?
It is very difficult to know for now, but we saw very disturbing visuals coming from the Gaza Strip, where Hamas terrorist organization is trying to rebuild its power in the Gaza Strip by arresting, torturing, and even executing many oppositions, factions, and elements in the Gaza Strip, or some people that allegedly supported or helped Israel in the current war. And the visuals are very disturbing and very tragic. I hope not only for Israel but also for the Gaza population that Hamas will be not only disarmed but will not have any political power in the Gaza Strip, because they are just torturing and terrorizing the population there. And it will be very difficult for the population to go into a process of rehabilitation when Hamas is still in power. So I hope that the efforts of all the countries that we mentioned earlier will bear fruits and will bring a better future not only for Israel but also for the Gaza population that is suffering very much from Hamas rule in the Gaza Strip.
You know, if you look at a best case scenario, we're looking at maybe some kind of a elected government or elected authority coming back into that region, which would probably involve maybe the Palestinian Authority and other people from that circuit. But that would obviously have to be sort of an election, which would elect people and put them together. What kind of a government, I mean, do you see which would be actually acceptable to not just Netanyahu but to the people of Israel? And once that happens, let us assume in a best case scenario that there is an election and there is an authority that is elected. What kind of authority would they really have to sort of operate in that region?
So first of all, a civilian government that will strive not only to stabilize the national security of the region, but also will see a better future for the relations with Israel, other partners in the region, and for the Gaza population. And will be able to reconstruct Gaza, to radicalize, de-radicalize Gaza, and being able to turn different infrastructures of Hamas into education infrastructures and other infrastructures that will be able to rehabilitate the Gazan population that suffered for many years from the Hamas terrorist organization. A government that will promote peace and will be able to maybe even be part of positive developments that were promoted following the signing of the Abraham Accords in the region, together with other Arab and Muslim pragmatic countries. And that will put all their efforts, fundings, and human power to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip that will live peacefully with its neighbors. So this is what we are hoping for. And we are hoping that other countries will be able to push for that direction.
But do you think now, violence per se in the Gaza Strip is likely to decrease?
No, we saw that Hamas terrorist organization is still trying to grip the power from different elements that would like to bring to a change in the Gaza Strip and are terrorizing the Gaza population. The many countries, including President Donald Trump, are calling Hamas terrorist organization to cease these kind of actions in Gaza that are not bringing to any stabilization in the region. And we do hope that Hamas will fulfill the peace deal, and together with other Arab and Muslim countries, will be able just to bring another future to the Gaza Strip.
You know, we're almost sort of running out of time, but if I were to ask you to look into your crystal ball and sort of look ahead, maybe till the end of the year, are you really sort of hopeful that there will be an accord that holds, that there will be an accord that satisfies everybody in this conflict? And keeping in mind that there are external nations which are also not very, how would I say it, friendly towards Israel, like Iran, and as you said, other people. Given all that, do you really see this accord moving forward?
So
Or, I
first,
mean, or rather, let me put it another way: what kind of challenges do you foresee before you can see real peace? What are the big ticket challenges that you see?
So, first of all, hope and faith are important values in Judaism. Even the anthem of Israel is called hope, Atikva. So, we do hope that there is a new dawn that is just, coming to the region. But there are many challenges ahead. It will not be easy. The peace deal is quite vague and it is very difficult to understand which kind of state and non-state actors will fulfill it and promote it, not only with Israel and the US, but with other partners in the region. So there is, of course, the axis of terror or the Shia nexus that could see this kind of developments in a very bad way and would like to bring back the region into disorder and chaos. And they can do it by launching different wars against the Jewish state and other partners that would like to bring to a change in West Asia. Many commentators believe that the October 7th attack was launched not only due to the radical ideology of Hamas to bring to the total destruction of Israel, but also because of positive developments that were occurring in West Asia, naming, of course, the Abraham Accords, but also the very ambitious project of the India Middle East European Corridor, the AMEC project. That is an ambitious project that would like to build a corridor of peace between India, pragmatic Arab and Muslim countries, Israel, and Europe to bring for prosperity, stability, and peace for all that will benefit all countries that are part of this project. And this kind of peace deal can maybe be perceived by Hamas and Iran and other proxies of Iran, naming Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and other Shiite militias, as developments that hinder or collide with their own ambitions in the region. So there are many challenges ahead. We are hoping that the first phase of the peace deal will be fulfilled, which is the return of all the seized hostages to Israel. And then it will be easier to promote the other points that are benefiting not only Israel, but the entire region.
There's been a lot of sort of physical destruction of the Gaza Strip during this long, 3 years of war. Um I assume there'll be some attempt made post the end of hostilities to do a bit of reconstruction and other things to that region. Now, Israel has already spent a lot of money on this war, a whole lot of money, which is, of course, a thing. Do you think um, Israel itself is going to fund the reconstruction, or do you think there'll be other countries stepping in to help?
I think that there will be other countries that will step in, countries that are very prosperous. We named like the US, but I believe that maybe European countries will be a part of the reconstruction project. And especially other pragmatic Muslim and Arab countries, naming Saudi Arabia, the Gulf countries, but also Qatar and maybe Turkey as well, that would like to be very much involved in the different developments in the region and restore or maybe gain some power and involvement in the region. But I believe that these kinds of countries will be more willing and more capable of funding the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip.
We're almost running out of time, but let me end with the last question. Do you see any attempt being made to reach out to the non Hamas, I mean, the average Palestinian, by the Israeli government? I mean, what kind of attempts are being made to reach out to those people who are affected by this violence, who are not Hamas, to sort of, bring about some kind of reconciliation because they are the people who have been impacted a lot by this whole violence. So, is there an attempt being made to sort of, reach out to them and convince them that, what, now is the time for you to get up and rebuild your country? Is there some kind of an attempt being made to do that?
I believe that there are some efforts to characterize or to see what kind of factions or what kind of groups or people uh, are moderate people that would like to bring to positive change in the Gaza Strip. Because of the sensitivity of the issue, these kinds of things are not publicly published. But I believe that there are some efforts to just understand who these people are and to try to build this civil government or bodies or political bodies that will be able to bring to these positive developments and reconstructions and rehabilitation of the Gaza Strip. But for now, not just Israel, but many countries are very, very cautious when it comes to approaching these kinds of elements because, as we mentioned earlier, Hamas is doing everything in its power to just arrest, kill, and torture all the people that are perceived to just challenge their power in the Gaza Strip. So even if there are some kinds of efforts to find these elements, I believe that they are being promoted behind the curtains because of the sensitivity of the issue and for the sake of their safety for the time being.
Well, this is a conversation which we could have carried on for a while, but I'm afraid we have run out of time. So, on that note, I'd like to thank you so much for your candid opinion on this whole thing. I'm sure our viewers will find it very refreshing to get your perspective all the way from Israel on what is going on. And I look forward to seeing you and Israel in much, much happier times, hopefully in the near future. You know, all the best, and thank you so much again. I look forward to having you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. All the best.
Thank you. That was Nina Slama, a very well known foreign policy and strategic affairs analyst from Israel, talking to us about the peace deal and what happens next. I do hope you enjoyed this particular edition of The Gist, and I look forward to seeing you again. Till then, this is Ramananda Sengupta.